And there we go. Such a great, incredible film that I really just think 44 years and it still holds up. What is going on, guys? Um, First of all, thanks for being here. It has been a hot minute since we've done a nostalgic Nirvana, and it being the 44th anniversary of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It just seemed fitting. Now that my schedule has has wound down a bit. There we go. I can speak. See, um, I have a little bit more time. I can give these some uh the focus and some dedication and Legionist is that better? I'm in a literal closet, so I apologize if I haven't gotten everything quite figured out yet, but yes, I'm literally in a closet. So hello everybody, Legionists, hello. Miss Martin Muses, how are you? Stieg, what's going on? Mad Dog Conroy, fantastic to see you. Hello, hello. Hi King Feanor. Welcome. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, Your Majesty. Oh, they did Feanor dirty. Like, I'm just saying. But that is another stream for another day, and ties in nicely, kind of, with my surprise announcement that I'll do a little bit later. And if you're catching this on the replay, I probably will have to cut out the Indiana Jones um, clips that I have that I put at the beginning and as I play them throughout because holy cow, YouTube's coming down hard on trailers, on like, even if it's just like, it doesn't matter if you invert it, flip it around, scramble the music, like they are coming down hard on it. We're talking, I mean, you can play a clip for like 3 seconds and they're like, nope. But no, it's not so much that I'm hiding from my Rugrats as it is that um so very long story short, uh I was like 2 feet away from the fridge in the kitchen, and other people might not notice it, but I can hear it in the background of a lot of stuff, especially some of my videos. So we were like, where could I possibly go? And um my the closet in my bedroom is where we landed. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But you're trying to be as obnoxious as possible, Mad Dog. You can go ahead. I promise I'll be okay. But yes, 44 years. Oh man, aging like a fine fine wine. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, really truly, there like it, it's it is it's incredible when you think about it. 44 years. That is just absolutely insane. I mean, when like gosh, what else is 44 years old? I don't know. I don't know. But I know there's a lot of stuff that's 44 years old. And 44 is, for a human being, that's middle age. You've hit the halfway mark. The average life, I mean, depends on the country. Average lifespan, you're gonna be doing all right. But man, 44 years. It's just insane to think that we are actually that far from when this got released. I mean, gosh, that's crazy. The 80s weren't 20 years ago. Um, like I remember there's been like this perpetual stasis almost. It feels like the 80s were only 20 years ago, but the 80s were 40 years ago. I mean, 85 was 40 years ago. And it's just incredible when you think about how time continues to march on, and these stories, these pop culture um mythos are what we have from that time. They're literally pieces of history, of storytelling that we want to pass down to our kids. So much so that, of course, Hollywood saw fit to try and exploit their legacies and turn them into corpses. And that's where we're at, unfortunately. And I wish it was something that people took more seriously. I don't know how many of you guys know or follow Matthew Marsden on Twitter. He also has a um YouTube here. Sorry, excuse me. Um and his YouTube channel, but he talks a lot about on Twitter, especially on X, formerly Twitter, that you know conservatives particularly are not investing in a in pop culture. They're not investing in stories, and I think that there's a lot to be said for how egregious that is. Conservatives built Hollywood. Conservatives built Hollywood. But like many things that conservatives build, we we don't gatekeep it. We don't. Um, and I think the biggest heartache for that is it allows other individuals who are not coming from a place of goodwill, are not coming from um wanting to tell stories, putting the story first. um they are coming from a place of, as we've seen, uh obsession with power and obsession with corrupting any means, any avenue that they can possibly see to obtain that goal. And that is incredibly unfortunate, because conservatives built Hollywood, storytelling for everybody, um, and that's what we were after. We wanted to not just share, not just stories, but great stories. And we were like, we want everybody here. We want everybody to enjoy. We want everybody to experience this new, um, uh, oh my gosh, not outlet, genre of storytelling. This film, this incredible, um, this incredible medium. There it is, to reach other people. And the problem is that when you do not vet things, when you do not gatekeep, when you do not enforce standards across the board, um, it gets corrupted, and it crumbles, it falls. I mean, that's true of anything. That's true of relationships, that's true of a house, that's true of a job, that's true of that's true of your front yard. That's true of a pet. If you do not take care of what you have, if you do not have standards that you adhere to, it will crumble. And that is what we are witnessing. We are witnessing the crumbling of storytelling. Um, and so to look back on things like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark and realize that this is an incredible story that is 44 years old. I mean, this changed the way that Hollywood told stories. This changed the way that Hollywood looked at IPs, the way that Hollywood viewed um, adventure films. And And it's incredible because around Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, you have all of these incredible action, just pure action movies going on. And Indiana Jones was able to not just um, be unique and entertaining and exciting, it was able to literally carve out a place in pop culture and cultural history. I mean, it's wild to think about. It's absolutely wild. Wolf, what's going on? Hi. Yes, yes, we're streaming. Emperor Goodwin. Conservatives tend to believe that being correct is sufficient. Their opponents know better. Yes, it is. It is a problem. It's very much, we've built this thing and we appreciate it and we love it, and therefore whomever we hand it over to will obviously also appreciate it and love it. And that just simply isn't the case. They're not interested in telling stories. They're interested in using stories as a vehicle for what they want to talk about, what they feel is more important. So um, it's it's devastating to see, but hindsight is 2020. Um, but yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark is uh 44 years old. 44 years ago today, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark premieres, launching an iconic adventure franchise. And I think that that is really, truly what separates this from other 80s films. This wasn't an action flick. This was a very intelligent, with actual genuine historical theological influence, and it, I mean, it took place during he literally is going up against the Nazis. I mean, before it was cool, before everybody was doing it. But the idea that this is happening, obviously it's much more prevalent in The Last Crusade, but Raiders is it's taking place, and it's this obsession with, ironically, it's perfectly fitting for modern day Hollywood. This obsession with chasing this ultimate power that is inevitably going to be your downfall because you misunderstand it and you don't appreciate it, you don't respect it. And it inevitably destroys you. I mean, if that is not um a flippin' mirror to Hollywood right now, I don't know what is. Today marks the 44th anniversary of the premiere of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the groundbreaking adventure film that introduced the world to Indiana Jones, the whip-cracking, fedora-wearing archaeologist. I two, two, I definitely thought that being an archaeologist was way cooler than it actually is after I watched these films. Um, it's just, uh, it's not quite, it's not quite like Indiana Jones or Nathan Drake for that matter. But okay, back to the article. On June 12th, 1981, gosh, my mom was in junior high. Maybe she was a freshman in high school, I think. When did she graduate? Can't remember. She was either in middle school or just started high school in 81. So like she'd not even she hadn't met my dad or anything. My mom was a kid. Um the film, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Harrison Ford, and based on a story by George Lucas, hit theaters, captivating audiences with its thrilling blend of action, mystery, and old school Hollywood charm. The movie not only became a cultural phenomenon, but also set the standard for the modern adventure genre. Exactly. 100%. Up, 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 up. Wolf, you crazy, crazy man. For $19.99, for $20. Thank you so much. Raiders is great, but Last Crusade is the best, in my opinion. For the purposes of this stream, though, Raiders is a unicorn Hollywood will never be able to find or capture again. I completely and 100% agree with you, Wolf. I mean, there is absolutely no way possible that modern Hollywood could come close to anything Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark was able to accomplish. It was just, it is, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, and the fact that this trilogy, because there are only 3 Indiana Jones films, and there's also, like, there's this wedding scene from somewhere, I think it was a fan film, but Indiana Jones and Marion, they get married, and they have a son that Indy didn't know about, but he gets introduced to, and he gets to be a dad, and they walk out of the church together. And it was good. And so I don't know where that 20-minute clip comes from. It's just kind of floating out there. But I also include that with everything. But yes, to be able to have not one, but two of your films in your trilogy be a perfect 10 out of 10, and I'm not being hyperbolic. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a 10 out of 10 film. The plot, the characters, the the themes, the historical accuracy and significance, and even the parts where you're obviously like Hollywoodizing it, like the boulder comes down and the running and the traps and having to survive these ancient booby traps and going through all of this. Even where you had to make it fantastical, even where it had to be fantastical, it was still believable. You know what I mean? It was still incredible. It wasn't something that was so outlandish or so off the mark that you were like, wait a minute. Now, was it 100% historically accurate? No, but taking what they did from what they had, I mean, it it's a perfect film. The dialogue, the action sequences, the adventure. It's a dual driving film, and what I mean by that is it is a plot-driven film, and at the same time it is also a character-driven film. And we don't get dual-driven films like that anymore. You do not have a plot that is able to function while the characters are also able to function, and they are both pushing the story forward, not just for the sake, like, not out of contrivancy either. Like, it's not just, oh, it happened to fall out of the sky. No, like, he's actually attempting, like, Indiana is putting himself in positions that he knows are dangerous, but he has to do it because if he doesn't, something worse is going to happen, and he has taken it upon himself to sort of be this voice for other individuals, or to defend either this civilization or the history of this civilization, or in the case of the in the case of the Ark, he was literally attempting to keep it out of the hands of pure evil. And so I think I think that when people are just like, yeah, it's not bad, they're genuinely misunderstanding and underappreciating what great storytelling is, because the fact that the story can stand on its own but so can the characters is something that we do not get at all anymore, and that is devastating. I mean, just absolutely devastating. But Wolf, thank you so much for the $20. I do love Last Crusade. I mean, how can you not? But they are both perfect 10 out of 10 films. Um but yes, I completely agree. Raiders is a unicorn, diamond, quadruple rainbow, like sundog that Hollywood will never ever ever be able to capture. Not unless they uh, something drastic shifts within it. And that's kind of what I was saying, like what Matthew Marsden's point is, unless fresh blood comes onto the scene, and by that obviously I mean like new people. Please don't like go spill blood for Hollywood. That's not what I'm talking about. But unless there are people who are willing to invest time and money into stories again, who are conservative, and here's the thing, it's not going to be enough to just make non I don't know how to phrase this. We have gone so far one direction, the only way back is having films that are that are very conservative, that are very right wing. And what I mean by that is like traditional value based films. The hero gets the girl. The hero is a man. The hero is not emasculated by anybody around him. The female lead playing opposite him is not combative or braver or smarter or stronger. Now, something that would work is she's got the money that she can sort of use to, like, what's the word? Not bribe, but hold over his head to convince him, like, unless you take me with you, like, you're not going on this adventure, right? Something of that nature. Like, if you've ever watched The Mummy, another 10 out of 10 film, 1999, The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Love that movie to bits. I've seen it probably 10,000 times, and I've done multiple nostalgic Nirvanas on it, just like I have on Indiana Jones. But you know what? If it's good, it's good. But the where in the film, uh, Evie is she shows up to go on the boat, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I'm the brains. Like, I'm the one that can read and write ancient Egyptian. Like, I know all of this stuff." So O'Connell is the map. She's the one that can read everything once they get there to help them find what they're going there for the Book of Life. They obviously find a different one, and it's a great film if you haven't seen it. But she has the knowledge, so she has to go along. But the scammy jailhouse nasty dude, the way that he scams his way onto the trip, he's going to fund it, right? So he spares O'Connell's life, and the reason that does is because Evie tells him O'Connell knows how to get to Hamunaptra, and he's like, "You're lying." "No, I'm not." And so she's bartering treasure that she hasn't found yet in order to save O'Connell's life. And O'Connell, like, gets spared, and sleazy creepy dude comes with because he's like, "I'm here to protect my investment. Thank you very much." And, like, that's a perfect way to it makes sense. It fits with the character, right? You could easily do that with a female as well, where she's like, "Unless you take me with you, like, you're not getting the money to go on this expedition." And I love that because it makes sense. It fits within the narrative. It is actually something that could possibly happen that doesn't emasculate the male lead, right? And it doesn't take away the femininity of the female lead. So it's very harmonious, and it's the way that these things are supposed to work. So I mean, I really do love how wonderful that all sort of fits together. But that's when you care about stories. And so unless some people actually step up and invest in them and start telling those stories again, and I mean hard code, whatever the buzzword is, with these traditional elements and with traditional storytelling, I don't know that we're going to see any kind of real change. And I don't know what studio would take that on. Maybe Skydance. Tom Cruise seems to be a big fan of traditional storytelling. So I don't think he would be opposed to it. So that might be like your best bet, or other independent studios. So let's carry on my wayward son. All right. Da, 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 da. The origins of Raiders of the Lost Ark trace back to a 1977 conversation between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg on a beach in Hawaii. Lucas, fresh off the success of Star Wars, pitched his idea for a globe-trotting archaeologist inspired by the serial films of the 30s and 40s. Spielberg, eager to direct a high-energy adventure, was immediately on board. The duo collaborated with screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan to craft a story that followed Dr. Henry Indiana Jones, a charismatic professor and adventurer, as he races against Nazis to recover the Ark of the Covenant, a biblical artifact said to hold divine power. Filming took place across diverse locations, including Tunisia, England, and Hawaii, with a modest budget of $18 million. $18 million! 18 million, folks. 18 million. And we got this beauty right here. $18 million. Can you imagine a film today like this for $18 million? The closest we've gotten is Godzilla -1. Insane. $18 million. Holy cow. Back in the day, that's a massive amount of money. I mean, that's a lot of money. $18 million, that is wild. Harrison Ford, already known as Han Solo, embodied Indy with a perfect mix of grit, wit, and vulnerability. Karen Allen's portrayal of Marion Ravenwood, Indy's tough-as-nails love interest, added heart and humor. The film's iconic scenes, Indy outrunning a boulder, the snake-filled well of souls, and the explosive arc opening climax, became instant cinematic legend. John Williams' rousing score further elevated the film's epic feel, with the Raiders' March becoming synonymous with adventure itself. And that is something else that Hollywood is missing. That is something else right there that Hollywood is missing. They no longer, it is all, they're not, everything sounds the same. There's no theme music anymore. Everything is cinematic, not thematic. And that is devastating. Absolutely devastating. I mean, could you imagine Jaws being anywhere near as scary without the but no, like, even today, people hear those two notes and it's immediate. They know exactly what it is and where it's from. So, oh, my goodness. Fantastic score. Upon release, Raiders of the Lost Ark was a massive hit, grossing over $389 million worldwide and earning 8 Academy Award nominations, winning 4, including Best Visual Effects. Critics praised its relentless pace, inventive action, and nostalgic homage to classic adventure serials. The film's success spawned a franchise, including sequels like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade, as well as TV shows, novels, and video games. Today, Raiders remains a beloved classic, celebrated for its timeless storytelling and indelible hero. Its influence is evident in countless adventure films and pop culture, from treasure hunting tales to enduring image of Indy's fedora and whip. As we reflect on its 44th anniversary, Raiders of the Lost Ark continues to inspire new generations to embark on their own quests for adventure. So, this is where we are at. People are more excited about a 44-year-old adventure film than they are about anything coming out this year in theaters. And the fact that that's where we've landed is actually pretty devastating. It really is. Because I remember, I was so little. I was so little. But I do remember people talking about how the 90s were so optimistic and so hopeful, and by the year 2000, we were going to have robot servants and flying cars, and we were going to have a space station on the moon. There was so much optimism, and I don't know what happened. It's 2005 to 2008, somewhere in there. It's like somebody flipped a switch, and all of a sudden it was just Western values bad, America bad, traditionalism bad. Just all of a sudden it was nihilism and brutalism and minimalism, and it was just awful. People were like, no, you don't need beauty. Beauty isn't just in the eye of the beholder. Everybody's beautiful. No, not everybody is beautiful. You may have a beautiful heart, you may have a beautiful soul, but if we're talking just attractiveness, if we're just talking physical looks, there is an objective measure of beauty. There is. And to lie about that, to say, well, everybody is beautiful, okay, well then that means that nobody is beautiful. To say that throwing paint on a canvas is art. I mean, I know you guys have seen this modern art BS. It's a giant scam. It is obviously a money laundering scam. I don't know how anybody could think anything different, honest to God. But I know you've all seen what it is. And I know that it's interesting to me because all of these executives and all of these studios and all of these just quite frankly terrible people embraced all of this ideology, this self-centeredism, this nihilistic, brutalistic, minimalistic outlook on life, and shoved it and pigeonholed it into everything. And then they wonder, why doesn't anybody like this? Why isn't this being embraced? We have to get people to change their mind. And then it was, well, if you don't like this, you're racist. If you don't like this, um you're homophobic, you're transphobic. You guys remember like when homophobia was a thing? You don't hear that word anymore, do you? Um Now it's transphobes. Now it's all of this other stuff. And it's just I mean, it is beyond ridiculous. It's just, okay, how many things could I be? And there's, oh, you're a Yahtzee because you don't agree with my point of view. No, that's not how it works actually. And this idea that uh I am convinced that there is not there is no greater sexist, misandrist, or misogynistic movement than feminism. Feminism hates women and men, but it really hates women. And that's why they hate things like this. They hate things like Indiana Jones. They hate things like Star Wars, like Lethal Weapon, The Mummy. Anything in there that has a female being feminine they see it as a direct threat to themselves, to their ideology, and more than one feminist has said we can't give women the option to stay home because if they had the choice, they would choose to stay home and raise families, and we can't have that. And it's just insane. The absolute self-loathing is quite devastating. Um and it's a bit heartbreaking if we're going to be perfectly honest. So I think they say all is fair in love and war, and I don't know if you know this, but we're in the middle of a culture war. So these people who are like, I may not start fights, but I know how to finish them. We are on our back foot in the 10th round of this boxing match, and we are getting our asses handed to us. We are about 2 seconds away from getting cold clocked out of this thing. So now would be the time to put your foot forward and start swinging those haymakers because we are 100% very much in a not good position. Like, this fight is going to end one way or another. And people are like, oh, it's the culture war is perpetual. It's never ending. It's never ending. No, 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 no. Having to fight to regain the ability to tell stories as they're meant to, that will end. Maintaining, right, what we were talking about earlier, maintaining that ability is much, much simpler. It's much, much easier. But people in power, systems in power, they want to stay there. So you have got to put in the work. Because if you just keep kicking the can down the road, eventually nobody is going to remember the better times. Nobody. And so they're not going to fight for it. And you're going to end up with little boys and little girls who don't know what it means to hope or what it means to believe in something greater than themselves. Because all they're taught is minimalism and nihilism and brutalism, and that beauty is a construct, that stories are agenda vehicles, and that they serve no other purpose. And if that isn't evil, then by God, I don't know what is. All right, we are halfway through. Cause so as you guys know, I try to keep these streams between an hour to 90 minutes. Sometimes I go way over. But I think right now might be a good time. We'll do a little mid clip for fun, and then we'll come back with an announcement. Okay. Oh gosh, I love those clips. So I obviously can't get it to load because it wouldn't be a nostalgic Nirvana stream if everything went smoothly. So of course, but I am super pumped to announce that I do nostalgic Nirvanas on Thursdays, unless there's like a special like anniversary or something that happens, something along those lines. And um for at least the summer, for the summertime, for about the next 7 weeks or so, I'm really excited that I get to do something else with you guys. That it's one of those things that was so obvious. I'm not really sure how I missed it or didn't think of it sooner. Um, and it kind of made me chuckle when I thought of it. So I will be doing a second live stream show during the week, and it will be TNT, Tuesday Night Tangent. Because as you guys know, I love to go down the rabbit hole on stuff. And you know what? The great thing about Tuesday Night Tangent is we may start at, I don't know, robot bunnies, and we're going to end up at hand woven alpaca rugs. I have no idea. That's how the tangents work. You guys know, if you've been around this channel for like less than half, like longer than half a second, I go down so many rabbit holes so frequently, and um you guys love to call, and it's so much fun, but it's very exciting. So there will be structure to the show, but that can all fly out the window if a really good tangent pops up. So Tuesday Night Tangents, right here, will be our second live stream of the week for the summer, starting this coming Tuesday. All right, so the 17th of June will be our first Tuesday Night Tangent. We'll see how it goes. This is going to be interesting because it is essentially me picking a starting point and not knowing the ending point, which is going to be very interesting because anybody else who has met me knows that I am almost destructively organized. I very much don't like to do things unless I have a clear agenda of how things are going to go. I pre-plan everything. I can fly by the seat of my pants when necessary, but that is usually because nothing has gone correct and I have to be wildly innovative in the moment. So to set myself up with something that is going to allow my rabbit chasing brain to go down those tangent lines is a little bit terrifying, but again, something that's so obvious, I'm not sure why this wasn't a thing 5 years ago when I just sat here and I was like, I go on a lot of tangents. Maybe I should do a live stream show about tangents. We can call it Tangents with Lady G. And I was like, I'll do it on Tuesdays. And I'll be like, the Tuesday tangent. And I'm like, well, I'm probably going to have to do it at night. TNT, Tuesday Night Tangents. So, fantastically, there will probably be some mind-blowing information that finds its way out. But yes, we will be getting 2 live streams a week. Tuesday Night Tangent and Nostalgic Nirvana will remain on Thursday nights. So that is the plan. And the great thing about the tangent is if something really crazy pops off, like on a Wednesday or a Saturday, or if I'm just bored, we can have random tangents throughout the week. That is the beauty of it. But we will always have our tangents on Tuesday because they are good for us to follow those crazy rabbit holes. Yes, summertime. Whoop whoop. Alpaca rugs are a thing. Yes, they are. Most people hang them up on the wall. Actually, they don't actually put them on the ground. Surprisingly enough. So, yes, that is the plan. That is the I'm very excited about it. I love spending time with you guys. I love hanging out with you guys. I love I just love being able to do this with you guys, and it's such a privilege and an honor to get to spend time with you and have you guys actually show up. It means the world. It's very, very humbling, and it's genuinely exciting. Now, since we are talking about now, and you'll have to forgive. You'll have to forgive. It is the Wikipedia page, but it's the only one that like really gives you any kind of information. So, and I know anybody can edit Wikipedia, but D-Day Direwolf, what's going on? So to wrap up our 44-year anniversary celebration stream of Nostalgic Nirvana for Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, did you know that there is actually a semi-proper fourth installment of the Indiana Jones franchise? I know what you're thinking, like, what? There's only 3 films, and you are absolutely correct. This is not a film. This is a computer game, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. So, this was when LucasArts was still a thing, before Disney bought and gutted the soul out of Lucasfilm and its entire plethora of creative minds. But this was developed by LucasArts and published in 1992, and it is a computer game. So we'll just quickly surmise the plot. The plot is set in the Indiana Jones universe and revolves around Indiana Jones' global search for the legendary sunken city of Atlantis. Sophia Hapgood, an old co-worker for Indiana Jones who gave up her archaeological career to become a psychic, supports him along the journey. The two are pursued by the Nazis, who seek to use the power of Atlantis for warfare and serve as the antagonists. The story was written by Hal Barwood and Noah Falstein, the game's designers, who had rejected the original plan to base it on an unused film script. They came up with the final concept while researching real-world sources for a suitable plot device. So, this is actually a fairly fun game. I believe you can get it on Steam. Not that I'm promoting Steam or anything like that, but I know eBay has some copies. And it is available on stream. So, I think that if you really want that that experience of further adventure with Indiana Jones, this would be a great way to sort of sate that. In 2009, the game was released as an unlockable extra of the Wii action game Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, and was digitally distributed by Steam title for Microsoft Windows and OS X on July 8th the same year. So since 2009, you've been able to get it on Steam. So if you really want a semi-faithful expansion of the adventure of Indiana Jones, because of course there are only 3 films: Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. Sean Connery. Fate of Atlantis is actually a really great way to experience that. So that is something to sort of keep in mind. But yeah, 44 years of Indiana Jones. It's too bad Hollywood was never able to recapture that magic after Last Crusade, with the exception of, at least not in film form. The Fate of Atlantis is a pretty enjoyable game. Oh my gosh, it's only $6 on Steam right now. Very exciting. So, go and enjoy that. I will probably be playing it at some point. Not entirely sure when, but I'm pretty excited for it. So, if we have to rate Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, we've already done it, but plot, 10 out of 10. Characters, 10 out of 10. Score, 11 out of 10. Literally restructured how adventure films were scored and written and presented. I mean, truly, just everybody wants to talk about groundbreaking and they just set out to tell good stories, and that is the thing. If you are chasing golden statues and pats on the back, I mean, you're in it for the wrong reasons. You're in it for the wrong reasons, because you will never be able to tell a story worth hearing, because you're not there for the story. You're there for what you think the story can do for you. And that is not the way to approach this at all. Um, but, so yes, music, 11 out of 10. We did plot, we did characters, we did score. Cinematography, 10 out of 10. I mean, some of the techniques that they were experimenting with in this film, like the arc at the end, when it literally eviscerates everybody that looks at it, and the melting Nazi faces will never get old. And I think that it is. I wish Hollywood would actually pay attention to the morals and lessons that are inside of its own films, because it's very like I said earlier in the stream, if this isn't a mirror holding itself up to Hollywood, I don't know what is. Chasing this elusive power that you think is going to give you control over the entire world, and being arrogant enough to think that you alone can wield it, and that you are, that you somehow have a claim to it, and nobody else is worthy, and to have that power destroy you. I mean, my goodness, that's Disney. That's Warner Brothers. That's Discovery. I mean, Paramount got itself humbled quick, and they have been slowly recovering from this incessant wound that they're bleeding from. But Paramount is attempting to make a change, but we'll see if that actually happens. Um, but it's insane on the face of it that these people will watch these films and they'll think that they're the good guys in the story, that they're the heroes. Um, and I remember, um, gosh, it must have been 3 months ago now, whatever it was, the whole controversy again about how in Starship Troopers the Marines are the bad guys, the fascists, and the bugs are supposed to like be the good guys. They're like, no, what I intended to get across. Okay, but here is the thing. in your attempt to tear down things that you thought were like that were inferior, and in an attempt to mock the tenacity of the human spirit and the ability to come together and overcome foes. And the fact that the bugs like slaughter people, like it doesn't matter. The story that came out of that is not what you intended. And sometimes, every once in a while, the way that the majority of the audience interprets the film, that is what it becomes. Now, I know that a lot of people are attempting to retcon their own work. Namely, I mean, a big one is The Matrix. They're trying to be like, oh, red pill and blue pill, like that, like we didn't mean for it to mean this, like, that's not actually what we were going for. And they're trying to, I think in the newest one, if I'm remembering correctly, um, you have to take the blue pills, but it's so funny because in their in their desire to undo their past, in the new Matrix film that they attempted to make, um, they have to shove tons of blue pills down their throat to maintain this state of denial because they're not willing to unplug themselves, which is ironic considering it is the Matrix franchise. And all of these people, the crazy thing about modern Hollywood, um, the reason that they hate early 2000s and earlier. So if you started about 2010, 2011, and you go backwards from there, it's mostly traditional storytelling. It's heroism and masculinity and femininity being a balance, and women fulfilling roles that are appropriate for them, and sometimes rising above what the situation called, like rising above their circumstance or what the situation has put them in. And in an effort to distance themselves from that, so in psychology, it is actually called distancing. And this is a phenomenon that the left genuinely seems to struggle with. Um, you choose your focal point and you try so hard not to be that thing or not to have that thing affect you that it actually controls your outlook and your mentality and your perspective of the world. So, for example, they so badly want to reject traditional masculinity, um, that they say men can be women and women can be men and they're all the same and you're just born in the wrong body. But then, in order to affirm that, you have to have surgery to give you the genetic parts of either a man or a woman. And people don't realize when they ask, like, hey, what does, like, why does that matter? Well, the thing is, deep down, you know why. You know why. And I think that it's really hard for some people because you can't ever run away from yourself. You can't. And so the best thing to do is to be honest with yourself. Unfortunately, most people can't do that. Most people don't know themselves. And so they lose battle after battle after battle. And that can get incredibly discouraging. So you start lashing out, you start acting out, you start demanding that people feed into your delusion because you can't maintain your delusion on your own. And it's true of just about anything. I mean, this is true of narcissists, of sociopaths, of addicts. It's, um, denial, denial, denial. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need beauty. I don't need truth. I don't need exceptionalism. I don't need to be challenged. And it's when you go back and you watch films like this, and they're so inspiring. Never give up no matter what. Always do the right thing. It's never about the greater good. It's never about the greater good. That is a lie. The greater good is a fairy tale. It is it is a way for people to justify some of the greatest atrocities that have ever befallen mankind. The greater good is always a lie. But when you are doing things for objective truth and objective good, and you're sacrificing yourself and not others, that is a completely different story. So it is very different to sit there and look at 30 people and say, to give up your business and your livelihood and your beliefs for the greater good. I don't have to do that, but you do. Whereas a hero will never do that. They're never going to look at those 20 or 30 people and say, you have to give up everything so that I don't have to give up anything. They look at those 20 to 30 people and they say, I will lay down my life. I will give everything that I have and more so that you do not have to lose anything. Because I believe that I am sacrificing myself for something greater than who I am. And that's what stories used to be. That's what, like, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's what it gave us. Indy was willing to literally go into the belly of the beast, into hell itself, in an attempt to save Marion, in order to save the world from the Yahtzees. And if we can get back to that type of storytelling, the incredible amount that that is going to help pop culture, help society in general, and would reinvigorate storytelling as a whole. I can't wait for it. On Tuesday Night Tangent, the first thing that we're going to talk about um, is going to be how the main driver for, like, bestsellers or what have you, is lust, and it's female lust that they're after. Um, and we've talked about different books and games and films and even music on this channel, on other streams beforehand. But on Tuesday night, for our first tangent, that's where we're going to start, is with these different books and how what they are selling is lust, is the female, that, like, they are feeding into the female lust market. It's not about true love and heroism anymore. It is about getting your rocks off. And it's because you have all of these lonely wine-ons who have their cats, um and not everybody is blessed to meet somebody and to have children, and I get that, but we're getting further and further, those individuals are getting less and less. We're getting further and further from people who just never met anyone, to now we are seeing a plethora of women who chose to abandon gender norms or gender roles, um, chose not to have families. And now it's too late, and they're taking it out on everybody else. And because they don't have anybody there, there's this need that they keep trying to fill. So they keep trying to fill it with false pleasure. And that is never going to be able to do anything. It's not sustainable. It's momentary. It's fleeting. They don't have anything. They don't have a bedrock. They don't have a rock on which to build. And so that's what Tuesday Night's Tangent is going to be about. And it'll probably tie into several classic pop culture films and stories like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's just it's something that doesn't get enough attention, but there is this push from women that did have children. Um, these boomer grandparents, I was reading about it. They don't want to have anything to do with their grandkids. They don't want to babysit, they don't want to spend time, they don't want to spend money on their grandkids. They want to it's that same self-centered selfishness. And so we're going to be talking a lot about that on Tuesday Night Tangent. So I am I I'm still hopeful, and I see, especially in millennials, like 40-year-olds and under. Some older ones, obviously, but for the most part it's those millennials who are around 40, 41, 42, like younger millennials, middle millennials. So middle millennials would be like 42, 37 to 42 right now. And younger millennials are like 29 to 36 right now. And it's crazy because everybody's just like, oh, Gen Alpha is like 12. That's how old the oldest Gen Alpha is. Gen X is like 13 to 27. Millennials there's a huge chunk of us, like, I am not old enough to run for president. Like, that is insane. Like, there are tons of millennials who are still in their 20s. There's millions of millennials in their 20s and early 30s. And we're suddenly getting blamed for stuff that we couldn't even run for office like 4 years ago. Isn't that crazy? And so I think it's to harken back to Mr. Marsden and what he has said. I don't know how, because I don't have anybody in Hollywood. I have no experience with Hollywood. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you just like walk up with a big check and are like, here we go. But like, conservatives are going to have to start investing in stories, because sitting there complaining about how everything is turning to crap while simultaneously not doing anything about it makes you just as much a part of the problem as anything else. It's true. And unfortunately, though, like any art studio or college or fine arts school that I know of, they're all so liberal. I mean, leftist psychopath liberal. And so I think part of it is you don't know where to put your money. You don't know where to put it, because if you put it in the institutions that already exist, it gets spent in ways you don't want it to be spent, and you certainly do not want to continue contributing to the support of the modern messaging and the modern agenda. So where do you go? Whom do you turn to consolidate funding in order to create storytelling? I think that is something, like, yes, we have the decentralized market, which is fantastic, but if we're going to be perfectly honest, there needs to be some centralization somewhere, because Indiegogo and Kickstarter, they're only going to be able to get you so far. I mean, yes, you're going to directly uh, fund the exact projects that you want, but how are people going to know to do that without, unless you have the money to spend on advertising for your project that is on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and you pour, several thousands of dollars into that, um and be like, hey, over on Indiegogo, like, you can directly be a a producer, like get a producing credit for this film if you donate. And like here is the fan funded project. It's I mean, it's difficult if you don't already have sort of a base that you're working with, or if you don't have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands um, of dollars to invest in that type of marketing. Or you are a marketing wizard who just manages to hit every single algorithm perfectly. So these are all things that are critical to think about. And the fact that conservatives have not been conserving things is a problem. Like, you cannot call yourself a conservative if you are not willing to actually step up and defend and conserve traditional values, be it in storytelling, be it in education, be it in family, be it in marriage, whatever the case may be. If you're not willing to actually conserve your values, you're not a conservative. You're not. You are, I don't even know, the angry uncle who is stuck in his high school days of football because he caught the game-winning touchdown pass for the state championship, and now that's all that he talks about, and he screams from the bleachers about how the coach isn't doing his job correctly and he could do a better job. Meanwhile, he's drinking an entire six-pack of beer and is 200 pounds overweight and doesn't actually do anything with his life and hates his job and feels like he's listlessly just drifting throughout his existence. That would be the equivalence to what you would be doing, because that you're not doing anything. Standing on the sidelines and shouting, while not in any way, shape, or form adding constructive criticism, or at the very least donating some portion of equipment or tools or time or money for new uniforms or something of that nature. Um, if you are not actually investing anything into what it is that we care about, then you're not doing anything. You're not conserving anything. If you're not sharing stories, if you're not standing up and saying, no, we're not going to pay for this, or we're not going to watch this, or we don't want this, and I don't care what you say to me, if you're not going out and attempting to find like-minded people to get together and start building from the ground up a studio, a production studio, or a music studio, or an independent studio that handles different genres, with starting with some of the action films are apparently one of the cheapest ones to make if you don't go super insane. Like, if you're not making a Michael Bay film, you can actually make a pretty decent tight action film for a slightly lower budget, but you've got to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be a James Bond film, it doesn't have to be a Transformers film, but if you don't start somewhere, you never start. And if you never start, you never have anything to build off of. You have no foundation, and therefore you cannot conserve anything because you've not invested anything. And it's just the way that it goes. Proven 22 says conserve the pillars of society: history, stories, music, celebrations. Food is another one. Like, yes, history is wildly important. Stories are important. Music is important. Beauty is important. Architecture is important. All of those things are desperately, desperately important. And the longer we ignore them, and the longer that we do nothing with them because we're like, oh, they're there, they've always been there, so they're always going to be there, that is literally taking for granted what has been left to us. That is not being a steward or a conserver of anything. That is that is coexisting with something that you do not fully appreciate because you never took the time to understand what it means. And then you have people on the opposite side of it who have been told they have to hate this thing or nothing new can happen. And so they seek to tear it down. That's the other side of this. See, Tuesday Night Tangent, I'm telling you right now, Tuesday Night Tangent is going to be wild. It's going to be fun. Yes, 250 years of American exceptionalism in the Army. So, for those of you that are unaware, it is the Army's 250th birthday. The Army's birthday was in 1775. The Navy's birthday. So, Army's birthday, June 1775. Navy's birthday, October 1775. Marine Corps birthday, November 1775. We did not become a country. We did not become a nation. We did not become the United States of America until 1776. We did not sign the Declaration of Independence until July 4th, 1776. America is 249 this year. But the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps are 250. We are older than the nation. And that, if you want to talk about exceptionalism and pride and honor, dignity, duty, I mean, we're gonna be doing tangents over military heroes, don't you worry. Dan Daly, Smedley Butler. It's gonna be glorious. John Basilone. Dan Daly and Smedley Butler, for those of you that don't know, are the two Marines who earned 2 Medals of Honor. And they are, I mean, there is so much beauty. And I think the best way that I've ever heard this stated is that preserving history is not defending ashes, but it is the preservation of ancient fire. And it's true, because once that ancient fire goes out, even if you rekindle a flame in its honor, it will never be the flame that it originally was. And I think stories like Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Last Crusade, The Mummy, the Lethal Weapon films, as silly as some people think they are, the original trilogy, even the prequel trilogy. I think, the stories, Redwall, the Chronicles of Narnia, obviously the Lord of the Rings. There's so many incredible storytellers out there, and there are so many incredible stories. Anne McCaffrey is one of my favorite authors. And, oh gosh, Faust and Abercrombie, and the list goes on and on. Wells, incredible. You want to talk about adventure stories. Wells is definitely where it's at. There's just, I'm just trying to go off like the top of my head of things that I can think of, and I'm not doing justice to any of them. You have Sarah Douglas. She's an incredible author. There's so many out there, and I don't know. I wish there was a way to let children know incredible stories that aren't bogged down with messaging and propaganda and hatred and self-loathing and brutalism and nihilism, and anti-hero is the stupidest term ever. But true heroism and hope and exceptionalism and faith in a greater tomorrow and belief in something more wondrous than yourself. But these stories are not going to manifest themselves. That isn't how it works. There is going to be a lot of work, and people need to recognize that, and they need to start they need to start investing in that. But I think the question is how. So hopefully that answer will get revealed soon, because it can't continue like this. But on a happier note, we have reached an hour and 16 minutes. So that was a little taste for what we will be doing on Tuesday Night Tangent. And Tuesday Night Tangent is gonna likely go till for at least 2 hours, possibly 3. That's gonna be a bit of a longer show. It depends on what rabbit holes we find and where they take us. And hopefully they are informative and exciting and, fun. That's the whole idea, right? To find things, utilize them to the best of our ability, explain them to the best of our ability. If we have more questions than answers, we can pick up on that tangent on another show and just have fun with it. But, yes, Legioness. Well, the message today can kick rocks. That's what I have to say about that. It can get crushed under its brutalistic heel that it continues to try to push. But thank you so much, everybody that was here. I genuinely appreciate you. It is ever so humbling and just incredible that you guys are willing to put up with my insane tangents and my wackadoodle tastes and my truly dorky personality in general. So I genuinely appreciate every single one of you. You guys are genuinely amazing. You remain undefeated, chat, as always. So without further ado, as always, God bless, Godspeed, and I will talk to you later. Bye.